All right, I have 6:31. I hereby call this meeting of the Council of the City of Lancaster to order. Today is the 8th of March. Couple of quick housekeeping items. Jesus Christ. Now is an excellent time to silence your cell phone and not drop it like I just did, or put it on vibrate. Please be aware that you are being recorded. This meeting is being live streamed. There's two cameras there and there. So we're working through a new system. Just want to make you all aware that the meeting is being live streamed. And then third is just that for any comments, prearranged or spontaneous, please begin with the block of your residence and keep your comments to 3 minutes in length. This bad boy is 3 pages tonight, so seriously, 3 minutes. All right. Without any further ado, as you are willing and or able, please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Harris, will you please call the roll of members?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Royo.
Here.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Mr. Colexty.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Here. Thank you. Approval of the minutes for the February 22nd meeting of Council. I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Council, comments on the minutes? Hearing none. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Royo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Mr. Colexty.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Excellent. That brings us to proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition. We begin with Council Resolution number 17, 2022. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster designating March 2022 as Women's History Month in the City of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Bakay.
Thank you very much, Council President. So March, as many of you know, is National Women's History Month, and today is actually the International Day of the Woman. I'm really proud to have introduced this resolution in the city. There is so many incredible women in our community who are out there doing the work in our nonprofit organizations, in our community groups, in our hospitals and doctors' offices, and I'm looking out and I see many of those folks in this room tonight, which is absolutely incredible. I'd also be remiss if I didn't make mention that this is the first time in our city's history that our council is made up of a majority of women, which is incredible to say in the year of 2022. Yes, thank you very much. And we have a lot of really great leaders that are women here in the city as well, including our mayor, our chief of staff, and so many others. That's why it's so important that I have brought this forward, and I'm looking forward to all of your support as we vote this evening.
Are there other comments from council? Are there other comments from the public? Hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Royo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Mr. Colexty.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye.
Thank you. I will ask Council President, if I may, before we move on, if we could take a moment to take a photo of our 4 city council members, and then also one with the mayor, just briefly to commemorate this evening.
Of course. Where would you like to take it?
I think right down there would be great.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Councilor Bakay. That brings us next to Council Resolution number 18, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster supporting House Bill 106 and Senate Bill 240, the Patient Safety Act, calling on Pennsylvania legislators to protect patients and support frontline healthcare workers whose valiant efforts have saved lives and eased suffering.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. This one I think is pretty straightforward, but very important. If anybody has had to be at one of our community's hospitals or our federally qualified health centers since the pandemic began, you are likely aware that the people who provided for you are doing really excellent work under really stressful conditions and often are assigned to try to care for a really large number of patients on a shift which may be late at night or the wee hours of the morning, and asked to do so without a sufficient number of staff. And so we've brought forth this resolution to encourage our legislators at the state level, where they are empowered to do so, to do something about that very thing. I believe we have a registered nurse from our community's federally qualified health center, Erica Lehman, here. If you'd like to.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Erica Lehman. I'm a registered nurse and also 59 days away from graduating from Millersville with my nurse practitioner degree. So I did race over here from said doctor's office. I also run the group Nurses of Lancaster, which is now a 3,000 member strong group of nurses that are here in Lancaster County and a lot in Lancaster City. And this is something that we've been working on for years to get this House and Senate bill measures approved in the legislation in Harrisburg. It's important after working 10 years at LGH and also working in a federally qualified health center now that we give patients access to quality care. And that quality care comes from protecting the healthcare workers that are providing that. So it's really important to us as nurses of Lancaster to make sure that legislation is passed to ensure the safety of those people providing the care to the patients for the bottom line of improving those patient outcomes. So really excited to hear this resolution today. Thank you, Council, for taking time to hear this.
Thank you. Council comments from the public. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Bakay.
Aye.
Mr. Gillespie.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. Ms. Lehman? You're fine.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Ms. Lehman. That brings us to the next resolution, which is Council Resolution number 33, 2022. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, supporting the people of Ukraine and condemning the invasion of their sovereign nation by military forces of Russia.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Diaz.
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution was brought forward. One and foremost is that my husband is originally from Estonia. And I do know that there's over 480 asylum immigrants that actually went into his country. Well, now it's the United States, but in Estonia, where his brother and family still live. It's important for us to continue supporting these family members abroad and also in our community. I had the moment to watch the news and realize how politicians and news media has been exploiting people that have been killed and children that are crying, trying to stay with their family together. The chaos has really caused a lot of commotion all throughout the United States and all through the nations. It really touched me emotionally the other day. As I watched the news, I had to turn it off because I started crying and felt that there is no reason why some one person would take control and kill others just for his own gratification of being controlling in a communistic way. So I can say right now that I reach out to all those Ukraine members in the United States and all across the world. I stand with you and I pray for you every single minute that I see the tragedies that are occurring. And I really hope that NATO and the United States continue working with your family across to make sure that you're in safe and away from harm's way. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there other council comments from the public? Mr. Dastra, and then
Good evening. I lived in Ukraine for 2 years. I have a lot of friends there. Some of them I haven't been able to talk to for days. They're firefighters in Kiev. They're soldiers. They're nurses. They're living in villages where they hadn't ever had a chance to go back to their apartments in Kiev. They don't have enough food right now. They don't have enough finances. They haven't been able to get paid from their jobs. Their pensions are iffy at best. So thank you for the city of Lancaster. I've lived here for 20 years, and I'm very proud of what you guys did tonight. Thank you.
thank you.
Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. Didn't have any prepared statements. This is not why I came here this evening. But as we were saying the Pledge of Allegiance, the thought started to cross my mind that, this conflict, we as a country, I feel, began to put ourselves behind in full force in terms of we support the Ukrainian people. And I think that's important because when a humanitarian crisis starts to occur, I am admittedly nerve-wrackingly nervous because I don't, this is a triggering subject for a lot of people. I've heard the argument, there is a question of what communities associate with what communities, and potentially the only reason we as a country are supporting this is because it is a white-on-white conflict, if you will. But this is almost a sobering moment because as we start to worry about what's going on locally, oh no, the price of fuel's going up. What are we ever going to do? People are meanwhile getting missiled to death across the world, and this could be the beginning of the next global war. The first one was supposed to be the war to end all wars, and this, as conflicts arise, we can't help but wonder, what's next? Where does the escalation stop, considering ceasefires are made and not followed? So I guess I'm making these statements right now because thank you for supporting humanity, and I hope that we as a people here locally do not forget that humanity is everywhere, and the question of what it means to be in support of that, the causes we fight for, whether it's one nation under God. I don't like that aspect of our Pledge of Allegiance because it was something we put in to separate ourselves from communism, and often Christianity is then weaponized, and then we look at Muslim countries. So I'm a bit rambly, like I said. I'm a bit nervous because this is potentially the beginning of an unraveling of a whole house of cards that has been prepared to topple. But thank you, and times might be getting tough, and we have to support one another through them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dasher. Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Royal. Aye. Sorry. Ms. Baker?
Aye.
Mr. Gillespie?
Aye.
Ms. Gregg?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell?
Aye. Thank you all. Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Thank you. Okay. Actually, you know what? It is my show. Can we have a brief moment of silence? I think that would be appropriate for the lives that have been lost and the people that have been displaced. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our first public comment period, reserved for those persons who have contacted the city clerk ahead of time. Do we have any, Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. President, we do have one. Art Morris.
Mayor Morris, please.
Good evening. Arthur Morris, 400 block West Chestnut Street, former city engineer, public works director, and mayor for the city of Lancaster. I want to share with you my concerns for the lack of openness and transparency in city government. On January the 11th, council adopted a resolution on the conditional appointment of 14 firefighters, new firefighters. Prior to the vote, council members were pleased to announce that some of the new hires were city residents. Some went to McCaskey and some to Thaddeus Stevens School of Technology. A gentleman in the audience came forward and asked about the number of people of color. Surprisingly, no one on council or the mayor had the answer. In other words, you were happy to highlight other characteristics, but not the people of color, all females. I find this omission troubling. I am not voicing concern or opposition to the appointed firefighters, but rather the lack of openness exhibited by elected officials. Another point, the 2022 budget, which contains a 2.75% increase for non-uniformed employees, has extremely large pay increases for two city employees. One, the Director of Neighborhood Engagement receives a 35% increase on top of 14% increase in 2020 and a 21% increase in 2021. And the other, the Mayor's Chief of Staff, a 21% increase. As far as I'm aware, no council member or the mayor ever pointed this out or explained it during public hearings. I can only imagine how the rank and file city employees, including the unions, will feel about this. No one on city council raised the question. The mayor did not discuss the reason for it. To me, it's shocking, it's shameful, and it totally lacks transparency. It amazes me to hear you stress the importance of new firefighters living in the city, as I noted earlier. But the chief of staff for the mayor can move out of the city and receive a 21% pay increase in the bargain. The neighborhood engagement director, even though in charge of neighborhoods, doesn't even live in the city. Lastly, through a right-to-know request, I have asked for the procedure used by the city in determining to give HDC $1 million last year. I have received sales agreements and other documents, but not an answer regarding the procedure that led to the city selecting HDC as your partner. I am seeking openness on this, please. I am here this evening to ask council to request the city administration and the mayor to provide a response to this request.
I'm so sorry, Mayor. Well, that's a first.
I knew I was making a significant point, but not that. Thank you.
Please hold just a
Anyway, I will finish up With that great introduction to the final comment, I am here this evening to ask City Council to request the city administration and the mayor to provide a response to this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Morris. I'm sorry for the over-enthusiastic instrumentation. Anything that we can do to get to get the mayor's question answered would be appreciated. Thank you for coming, Mayor Morris. I'm sorry, I'm still reeling a little bit from that. Do we have any other public comments, Mr. Harris?
We do not, Mr. President.
I want to be clear, I don't hate that in principle. Sorry. Yeah, right. Okay, everyone, thank you for bearing with. And again, thank you, Mayor Morris. We're back at it. Mr. Harris, do we have any reports requested by council this evening?
We do not, Mr. President.
Okay. Before we get into reports of committees of council meetings held on March 1st, 2022, I just want to give anybody who was present for the first three resolutions of recognition the opportunity to step out the door without feeling like they're interrupting anything, because it will be quite a meeting. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to reports of committees of council meetings held on March 1st, 2022. We begin with the Public Safety Committee. Councilor Diaz.
I apologize. I'm trying to locate it. Give me a second here. I believe I cannot locate this.
Councilors, I'm sorry, I was under the weather. Did the Public Safety Committee meet?
I don't think we did.
Okay. Yeah, I don't believe it did either. So you can stop searching. I think you're off the hook tonight, Councilor Diaz. We'll go then to the Public Works Committee, Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Council President. There were no items on the agenda, so the committee did not meet.
Thank you. Economic Development, Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. The Economic Development Committee did meet to do a brief update on the ARPA RFP process. That we're currently reviewing the submitted proposals, and the next steps will be scheduling interviews for the final candidates. That concludes my report, Council President.
Thank you. Finance, Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee met on March 1st and discussed the following items. Resolutions 19, 20, and 21, which were to amend the signatories on the city's pension plans, which was needed due to the retirement of Bill Andrews as the city controller and being replaced with James Reichenbach. Those resolutions will come up on the agenda this evening. We also discussed resolutions 22, 23, and 24, appointing a deputy controller, deputy treasurer, and authorizing a tax collection agreement. Again, that will all come up this evening. These appointments are allowed under amendments to the third-class city code, which were made actually a few years ago and are in line with the city operations that we have in place today, in which our Procurement and Collections Bureau Chief, Megan Baum, acts as a tax collector. Additionally, the Deputy Director of Finance, Von Wynn, would be appointed as deputy controller to be able to act if the elected controller was unable. Again, this is in line with our city operations today. We also discussed Resolution 27, which approves a funding project by the Lancaster Higher Education Authority. This is on behalf of Elizabethtown College that will primarily refund revenue bonds and fund some capital improvements. This resolution doesn't obligate the city to the debt in any way, but the approval allows for the college to receive a more favorable interest rate. That resolution will be on our agenda this evening as well. We discussed Resolution 25, which authorizes a tax and revenue anticipation note, the funds from which will be spent on capital projects across the general, water, and sewer funds, and as per the terms of that type of note, would be paid off no later than December 31st of this year. Again, that's on the, will come up on our agenda later this evening. We also discussed Resolution 26, which is related to number 25, which states the city's intention to reimburse those funds from proceeds of an anticipated bond issue. Finally, Bill 5, which will be on our agenda this evening for first reading, which is the supplemental appropriation of capital projects for $10 million, and which specific categories those will be appropriated to. Again, we'll discuss that for first reading later this evening. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Bakay. Community Planning, Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Community Planning did meet, and we had six items on the agenda. A review of the Historical Commission's recommendations for 43 to 49 West King Street, and 5 authorizing applications for the local shares account program, which will all come up on the agenda a little later.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. Finally, Personnel Committee, Councilor Calixte.
Thank you, Council President. Excuse me. Thank you, Council President. And the Personnel Committee met on March 1st and reviewed nominations for appointment to the Human Relations Commission, Public Art Advisory Board, Lancaster Industrial Development Authority, and the Human Relations Commission Advisory Council. That ends my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. That brings us to our legislative agenda, where we begin with nominations for appointment. Councilor Calixte.
Mr. President, I move to appoint Ms. Janelle Lee Sanchez to the Human Relations Commission for a term from March 8, 2022 to September 30th, 2022. And Ms. Claudia Galdames to the Public Art Advisory Board for a term from March 8, 2022 to July 31st, 2024. And Mr. Iber Guerrero Lopez to the Lancaster Industrial Development Authority for a term from March 8, 2022 to December 31st, 2025. And Ms. Linda Martin to the Human Relations Commission Advisory Council for a term from March 8, 2022 to September 30th, 2025. And,
Second.
Yes, thank you. So,
We have a motion and a second on the appointments. First, are any of the persons named present this evening and would like to address council, if briefly? Hey, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. And it's my honor to be here tonight. And while I'm not an artist, I do believe that everyone has the ability to manifest and consume art in a way that serves a purpose for their lives. I am thrilled to serve on the Lancaster Public Art Advisory Board to help many visionaries execute their dreams to their liking, bringing upon them the opportunity to display the colors of their undiscovered palette. Lancaster City is home to an abundance of people that vary in colors and ages. By advocating for the talent which is present in our diverse populace, we demonstrate the true expression of art that Lancaster City inhabitants hold. So good evening, my name is Claudia Galdames, and I'm honored to be here and to be part of the Public Art Advisory Board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are any of the other appointees present? Oh, Mr. Guerrero Lopez, of course, I'm so sorry. I'm going to make you follow the rules. My apologies, friend.
I do apologize. We're not used to that much protocol in Lancaster Townships.
You're good.
Thank you, Mayor Sirachi and Mr. President and Councilor, for appointing me to the Lancaster Redevelopment Industrial Authority. Thank you. That's all I got to say.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Guerrero Lopez. Mr. Guerrero Lopez is also a Lancaster Township Supervisor, if you weren't aware. Are there any other nominees present? Are there any comments from council on the appointments? Are there any comments from the public on the appointments? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Roya.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Clexy.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Congratulations all. I will also take this moment, as it is my prerogative to do so, to resign, to remove myself from my seat on the Public Art Advisory Board, and to appoint Councilor Walsh to occupy the council representative seat on the Public Art Advisory Board. All right. That brings us to the Heritage Conservation District. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. Considering the following applications and recommendations from the Historical Commission for improvements to properties within the Heritage Conservation District, all three are regarding Hager parking properties. The first is regarding 43 West King Street. They propose the demolition of a three-story building and retaining the facade features to allow new construction on the site. The second is regarding 49 West King Street, and the proposed demolition of a one-story commercial structure to allow new construction on the site. And the last is for 33 to 49 West King Street, and they propose construction of a new six-story multifamily residential building with ground floor commercial space and interior parking. And all three of these applications are recommended for approval by the Historical Commission.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I'm sorry, for clarity's sake, Councilor Craig, is that a motion to approve all three together?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Before we go to council comments, I'll ask, are there any staff present? Is Ms. Stallings present this evening? Okay. Oh, amazing. Great. Just to have you as a resource. Council comments. Comments from the public.
Wait. I might have missed it. So are the buildings recommended for approval then to be demolished?
So, per my agenda, the demolition of a three-story building on 43 West King Street, the demolition of a one-story building at 49 West King Street, both of those, were recommended for approval by the Historical Commission and would need the successful vote of this council to receive certificates of appropriateness to proceed.
With one amendment, if I may, Council
Please.
President, that the facade of the three-story building will be maintained and incorporated into the design of the final design that is being also presented here for approval.
Ah, yes, that's important. Thank you, Mayor.
And also, Council President, it was also approved by the Historical Commission in accordance with the cited conditions, which are the building wall panels will be salvaged and stored in a safe and secure location for eventual reconstruction off-site by a third party.
Okay, so the wall panels of the one-story building are being preserved. That's where part of my misunderstanding had come into play. But this actually ties into why I came in here today, so I'll tie this up a little bit. The carbon cost of moving a brick is something I think a lot about. Like, how much carbon is utilized putting a brick one place to get it to another place, especially as the price of fuel continues to rise. We don't know necessarily where that trail is going to stop. I know earlier I kind of made light of the situation, but it is a very serious question. Like, to what extent are we going to have access to fuel to complete a project or otherwise? It would be interesting to see what the cost is to actually preserve the larger structure in full and build around it. I don't know what the insides of that building look like, but infill development's great. I love infill development. I think it's good to have a more dense city, especially as resources become scarce and you need to put resources in one location. But if it's the structure I'm thinking of, the large size, I know 3 stories isn't as big as a larger structure in Philadelphia potentially. There are some row homes that are just 1 or 3 stories. But it would be interesting to see more of our larger construction preserved for the sake of carbon cost, and if we don't have to move that brick to a landfill, that's carbon saved, that's fuel saved, that's energy saved. So I would be cautious about giving an approval for demolition. I'm not saying deny this, I'm more or less saying table this decision, because I think as a city we can be leaders on calculating carbon cost of projects and whether or not something being saved, while not ideal. A facade is a facade. I'm sorry. I've said that I appreciate facades being preserved in the past, but the more I think about it, it's literally just that, a facade. And sometimes preserving a facade requires more carbon than just strictly preserving a building. So those are my comments on that, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dastra. Are there other public comments on the recommendations? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Mr. Kalexty.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. All right. That brings us to our legislative agenda, where we begin with ordinances for final passage. Administration Bill number 2, 2022. Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, amending Chapter 285 of the Code of the City of Lancaster, Vehicles and Traffic, to increase parking meter rates and to establish a procedure for changing parking meter rates, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect in accordance with Pennsylvania law.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council comments. From the public. Oh, there we go.
Scott Seuss, the 300 block of North Queen Street, where I'm also a merchant in the 300 block.
I'm so sorry. Could you just give me your last name one more time?
Seuss?
Seuss, thank you.
Yes. As I understand this ordinance, having read it, the whole purpose is to try to stimulate more turnover of on-street parking spaces by adjusting the parking rates, increasing them significantly. I don't understand how this works, and I see it more as a ruse just to raise the rates. I asked the parking authority for what sort of data they use to make this determination, and they basically said it's not available for another 3 weeks, which is conveniently after this meeting here. So I'd like to know what methodology was used to determine if the current rate of on-street parking turnover needs to be increased. I don't see it. I drive around the city, almost all day long. Mustard Park neighborhood, other areas, North Queen Street where we are, we don't see a need for increased turnover of the parking spaces. And in my mind, increasing these rates citywide just causes more incentive not to come downtown to park. I'd also like to know, does this need to be turned over in all areas of the city, all times a day, all areas? Is it, a 20-minute period on King Street for a handful of spots justify increasing rates on Orange Street, on Lime Street, in the more residential neighborhoods, or somebody previously stated in going to the library with your kids, now you need to pay it? I mean, $5 is a lot for 2 hours, more than a gallon of gas at the moment, all that's probably going to change. When you look at, I don't carry cash. I know a lot of people, a lot of our customers come, they don't necessarily have the money to put into the kiosk machine, and we hear lots of complaints the bill changer doesn't use. Those kiosk machines default to the maximum when you put in a credit card to the full 2 hours, which is $5. You're coming downtown to park for 30 minutes, $5 is a lot of money. Maybe you weren't aware of it at the time. You said, oh, next time I'll think about it. I don't see how people are going to know that they're supposed to go to the parking garage. When I go to a parking garage, I think, well, I'm going to drive around. I've got to find the space. I've got to find the elevator, the exit, the egress. I come out. I'm disoriented. Maybe I'm 2 blocks from where I want to go. Let's face it, when people go and they go somewhere, they want to park as close as they can to their destination. When you go to the Costco or Home Depot, do you see people parking further out and saying, oh, I'm going to walk, it's healthy for me? No, they'll go up and down the aisles looking for the closest parking spot. So is this increase in rates going to motivate people to 50 cents to save 50 cents to go through all that trouble to park in the garage? I really think this is a bad idea. I think it's a disincentive. It's not going to do what it says to do. And I would like to know what sort of metrics, if they didn't do the study beforehand, what metrics are going to be used to measure success? If it doesn't increase the parking rate turnover, are you going to repeal the rates, put them back down where they were, or is it just a done deal? I don't see the rationale in this or the benefit of doing it at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt is annoying.
Is there a way, I'm so sorry, is there a way to lose the, is there a way to lose the gong? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we could just do it on silent if there's a, I have not looked behind me yet. Yeah, if there's a counter, we can just do, if we can do that on silent, that would be appreciated. Mayor Morris?
Arthur Morris, I think it's kind of redeeming. It's kind of fun. Parking meters, I don't know if you've checked with other municipalities. I would hope you have. You've got one example from the Parking Authority, Harrisburg, $4 for the main downtown and $2 in the neighborhood. You're going to raise this to $2.50, which is even more than Harrisburg neighborhoods, 67%. Did you check with any other municipalities? E-Town, 50 cents, I think. Mount Joy, none. Lidditz, I think between a nickel and 50 cents. York, $1 to $1.50. Reading, $1. I think they just lowered everything to $1. Bethlehem, $1.50 to $1. They differentiate between their CBD and the residential. I would hope council would look into this before you act on this. You're given information, but only a certain kind that supports what's being driven here. The current parking infrastructure is horrible. I invite you to walk around and look at it. I'd be happy to take you around. Go out here today, out from City Hall to Duke, and take a left. And before you get to Chestnut, on the left-hand side in front of the garage are 2 signs. One says 2-hour parking only, Monday through Friday. The other one says 2-hour parking only, Monday through Saturday, right next to each other. So somebody coming downtown on a Saturday, they see the first one, they don't put money in the meter, they get a ticket. Walk up the street half a block, you've got a sign on the street saying one thing, and you've got another sign differentiating, similar to this, where the kiosk is. Walk up further to Walnut Street, take a right, look at the meters. On the meter, there's a sticker slapped on it. It says parking Monday through Friday. You look at the sticker inside the meter, parking, Monday through Saturday. And then you look at the spaces. I'm at the corner of Walnut and Prince, and there's an African-American older lady there as a caregiver in the high-rise. And she's standing there, and she said, I'm really confused. I said, what are you confused about? She said, I'm parked here, I put money on the meter, but I don't know if I should be parking here. And I'll tell you, you couldn't tell where to park. The space is so long that they got meter at the beginning of the space and the end of the space. That is not the only example. I encourage you to go. The infrastructure in the city is horrible. You got posts that have been cut off without a meter, and they still remain. I don't know who's supposed to enforce that, but it's not being enforced. Parking Authority also, they have a fund balance of $3.5 million on a $10.7 million budget. But another 1.8 of that 10.7 is going to the CRIS. They get a brand new garage that will be new income for them. So they have more coverage. They have about 50% of coverage with their fund balance. So they don't need this in order to keep the budget going. Not only isn't the rate needed, you, quite frankly, are going to be raising water rates this year. You've made the point that you're going to be doing that. When you raise outside rates with the PUC, you're going to raise the inside rates. Anybody that lives in a residential area that parks 1 hour extra a week will pay $50 a year. And you make the point extra because of this. If they park 2 hours a week, you can do the math. You raised the point about the need to keep taxes down. But this is a fee increase if you do it at 67%. And lastly, Larry Cohen has said at this podium that if you raise it this time, I won't be back for 10 years if I'm still here. Why are you raising them to a rate that lasts 10 years? Why are you even doing that? There's no suggested middle ground on this. I encourage you to table it, look around, take a look at the system, look at the rates in other areas, and then make a judgment of whether you think this makes sense. I don't use them. I walk downtown. I think it's a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Tony.
Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. I'm just going to be that guy. No, I think that we do need this. And actually, I guess if there's a point of agreement, it's that it might not work because it's not high enough. And I've said that before, and I'll say it again. What we shouldn't be prioritizing as far as traffic flow in our downtown area is the catering to automobiles. We need to be catering to bikeability, walkability. And maybe if people stop parking on Queen Street or something like that, we can have more bikes passing through, more customers coming through the area, potentially from within the city, if we are supporting biking infrastructure by causing the attrition of automobiles in our downtown core. The kiosks, I can see the flaws with that, and not everybody has a smartphone. And granted, there is a 35-cent rate addition when you use a smartphone application to park, but I think the smartphone app is great, and maybe we can find a way in the future to reduce that cost so that residents don't have to worry about that 35-cent fee for a short stay downtown. I definitely understand how, from the auto-centric world we are currently in, that we are scared to see this happen. But more people coming through downtown on bikes and walking, and less cars coming through and parking and taking up that precious real estate is better for our downtown businesses. With the rising fuel prices, I don't expect to see people circling around the block looking for parking soon. People are going to probably want to get to a parking garage faster. And furthermore, maybe if the parking authority does get more, let's just hypothetically say the parking authority gets revenue out of this, like a lot more money. Maybe we can actually design parking garages that we as a city are committed to providing affordable housing. As we need to retire garages in neighborhoods where we might potentially need them, we can convert flat deck garages into residences. There is potential for the long term here, and I understand the parking authority is not necessarily our favorite authority of all the city government bureaucracies. I think that it is important to recognize the difference between our downtown commercial center, but our residential areas as well. But furthermore, that segregation of uses, as Jane Jacobs might put it, is how we get into situations like this. And so, no, thank you for considering a rate increase. But I'll say it again. If, maybe I've persuaded you in this small rant here of my third this evening. to amend this to make it higher, frankly. I understand with cost increases coming, that's also not savory, but I do think we need to tackle the attrition of vehicles in the downtown area and throughout the city heavily so that we can provide more bikeable and walkable communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dastra.
Bob Shank, live at 10 North Market Street in the Hager Building. I've heard all the comments, and I read about it in the paper, and I'm assuming when this was introduced, maybe last meeting or 2 meetings ago, you got the whole story. So you've been able to study it. So my comments are coming from what I've read in the paper and just sort of being around here. I think, a comparison to Harrisburg is a good comparison. I mean, it might be 67% to raise it 50 cents an hour, but, it's 50 cents. And I don't know when the last increase in parking rates occurred, but I think it was at least 10 years ago. So I think it's time to, catch up with costs and everything. Sure, vehicles wear out. You got to buy new vehicles. The city does the same thing. So I think in this case, and segregating it, making it more expensive to increase turnover in the downtown core and less expensive in the neighborhoods, it sounds like a good solution to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor.
Councilors, Mayor, good evening. Dave H. I'm the Executive Director of the Lancaster Downtown Investment District. Mr. Cohen had come to the Executive Committee of the Downtown Investment District back in December and spoke to us about his proposed rate increase for the reasons that have been stated here this evening to increase turnover. While the Executive Committee talked to him, reviewed it, we found out that the last rate increase in parking in the downtown was back in 2006. So 16 years ago, rates were increased and have not been increased since then. So as has been stated here by a couple of people tonight, I understand costs have gone up, wages have gone up, and if this does increase turnover for our businesses downtown and it promotes people using parking garages for longer terms, I would stand by that. So, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there other comments from the public? Mr. Cohen, please.
Good evening, everyone. I figured I should speak since it is my ordinance. I have some prepared comments. I have presented to you in the past a detailed justification for the need of an on-street meter increase. This is the first change in a decade and a half and will allow our downtown to function at a best practice level in helping to manage parking, traffic, the carbon footprint, and ease of access to our downtown businesses while correcting our upside down on and off street parking rates and providing funds for modern technology. Even just recently, Lititz voted to double their on-street rates to provide funds to enhance their modernization of technology. The concept has been accepted by the Downtown Investment District, as Dave Achel just spoke, and the Lancaster City Alliance without objection, but notably with a few dissenters at city council meetings. Actually not too bad when you consider it's a parking issue. I have attended public meetings. It was a front page story in LMP and online, including today. There was an opinion piece in my rebuttal to help clarify fact from fiction and to educate the community. In my 12 years as head of the authority, I have always maintained an open door policy to discuss any parking related issues, whether in person, on the phone, at meetings, through email, or as an invited guest at community groups to help solve parking issues, some of which were outlined in the first neighborhood parking study, partially funded and overseen by the Parking Authority several years ago. With a proposed increase, we are still within our pure market structure. As an independent municipal authority that functions like a small business, All LPA revenues go right back into our program for the benefit of the community, such as maintaining and upgrading our parking facilities, or adding new elements like electric vehicle charging stations within the neighborhoods, which I have promised to do with this approval. It will be a monumental initiative for the neighborhoods. Even in the depths of a $2.5 million loss during COVID, we have continued to provide over $250,000 of in-kind free program, such as additional discount garage parking validation programs for all businesses, free church parking for all the churches downtown on Sundays, and free on-street parking during the 12 free days of holiday parking, which is subsidized by $50,000 by the parking authority, to name a few. From a customer service perspective, we have always put compliance over enforcement. By the way, we enforce each block an average of 4 times in 10 hours per day, which is actually under enforcement. We do want people to pay for parking, and we have made every accommodation to do so by adding mobile app and by also taking coins and credit cards. We are also one of the last cities in the country who takes dollar bills on the street as another convenience for our visitors. And yes, you can still put in a quarter to run in for a quick errand. Nothing has really changed except for multiple payment options we have added throughout the years in advancing our use of technology. And listening to comments from the last reading, we will reduce the credit card minimum to 1 hour instead of 2 hours. Also, in exploring many other options, we did look at extending paid on-street parking past 6 p.m., but that presentation wasn't supported by the Downtown Investment District or the Lancaster City Alliance. Parking can be a great unifier of public dissent, whether it be about meter parking rates, enforcement of residential permit parking, street sweeping, or adding new parking space. Complaints evolve around availability, cost, and convenience. Whether it is someone like me who has been in this quirky parking business for over 40 years, or someone new to City Council, our goal should be to make sound, proactive parking management decisions that are not only considered best practices, but pertinent to our community. Once again, there have been no increases in 16 years, and there probably will not be for another decade. So please vote in favor of our ordinance. Thank you for your support.
Are there any other comments from the public? Reverend Shell.
Good evening, Willie Shell, 219 South Marshall Street. Just to talk on behalf of the parking authority and the charges rate, I think that this is something that's definitely not needed. It really needs to be tabled, looked at, and considered as citizens that only come downtown, especially the residents that come downtown for 15, 20 minutes. For example, I went into the county building and I had to pay $2.47 or $2 and change just for 15 minutes, just to go into the county building for 15 minutes. I get around in cities like, for instance, Columbia. Columbia still charges $10 for water for street parking on street cleaning. They charge 25 cents for an hour. Here we charge 25 cents for 30 minutes. These are the things that we need to look at, especially when we're in an economy now that is really strapping the peoples, and we need to make sure that we're not harming the citizens of our city, not so much of the people in the county, but the citizens that come down to Lancaster every day. For instance, this permit parking, there needs to be something done about it. On East End Avenue, there are 2 businesses. I have a business there, there's a corner store there, and they have permit parking 2 hours per day. Well, that's okay in the city, but this is a residential area. Shouldn't even be allowed. to have permit parking 2 hours per hour, coming around giving people tickets. And even at my business, I took a picture last night. They only supposed to start at 6 o'clock. The girl was giving her ticket at 6:02 in front of my laundromat. One of my customers got a ticket at 6:02 p.m. Is that customer coming back? No. You lose business. I said to her, what can they do about this? She said, sir, I'm just a ticket person. These are the things that we need to look at. And one of the things that need to really be looked at very hard is the fact that there's no need for an increase in parking. Not when the city, when the parking authority charged $25 for street cleaning. Columbia, 10 miles from here, charged $9, $10 for street cleaning. We don't need that big an increase. And I ask council to table this, take a good look at the cities around us, what they're charging for meter and for street cleaning, and see if there's a need to increase this. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Okay, one more time. Are there any other public comments? Okay. Any other comments from council?
I do have a question.
Yes, Councilor?
Mr. Cohen, do you have a list of the businesses that are pro and con for the increase?
No, I do not have a list of the individual businesses who are pro and con in favor of the increase.
So we don't know how many have agreed to say that they don't have any issues with the increase. Is that correct?
Well, this is the goal of going to the Downtown Investment District Board of Directors. They're representative of the business community. They render the opinion on behalf of their merchant community.
So you basically don't have anything that they provided to you stating how many businesses would agree to increase?
No, I mean Dave Achel, who's here, can speak on that behalf. I would, it's kind of a loaded question. It's like saying to someone, are you in favor of a water increase? I don't think, Dave can extrapolate out how many folks were in favor and not in favor. I would, it's parking, so I'd have a hard time believing that people would just be typically in favor of, other than the folks who spoke out today, I think would be a fair representation. And if folks were vehemently opposed, that this is their forum for coming and expressing their displeasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chancellor Diaz, just to answer your question, we did invite Mr. Cohen to the Downtown Merchant Committee meeting in January. He did lay out this proposal to them. I believe there was probably close to 50, 55 people in the room at that time, most of them merchants within Lancaster. There was a few questions, as were asked this evening as well. We did not hear any major objections to that from that community at that time.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor.
Since he got up for a double comment, I could just make one
Very
point
briefly, Mayor Morris,
one
go
point
ahead.
of clarity here. Realize when you're looking at the downtown folks, you're looking at people that pay the rates in the garage, and they have contracts. They don't want to see their rates go up. They'd rather see the rates go up on the street and bring in revenue, rather than have the rates go up in the garage where they've got to pay for contract parking. Because they don't want that kind of situation. So there is somewhat of conflict of interest when you present to whoever the downtown individual businesses are.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I'm going to call it, forgive me, Anybody who feels cut off by that? Mr. Harris?
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Flexi.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Nay.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
President Smith-Waddell.
Nay. All right, that's 5-2. I believe the increase passes. Okay, that brings us to Administration Bill number 3, 2022, creating the Department of Neighborhood Engagement. Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. President.
Actually, give me just a second. I'm going to let folks. Fantastic. I'm sorry about that, Mr. Harris. Please go ahead.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, amending Chapter 5 of the Code of the City of Lancaster, Administrative Departments and Bureaus, Article 1, Sections 5.1 and 5.2, to reference the Department of Neighborhood Engagement, and Article 3 to establish the Department of Neighborhood Engagement, to define its subordinate functional areas, to report to appropriate authorities, boards, and commissions, and to transfer areas of responsibility to such department, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect in accordance with Pennsylvania law.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I'll actually kick it over to the mayor first.
Thank you, Council President and council members. As you know, we taken up a conversation about this previously. The scope and responsibilities of the Office of Neighborhood Engagement have expanded to include the Lancaster Office of Promotion, as well as management of the Visitor Center and the expansion of our vistas, which is considerable. Given the number of years ahead of us in terms of maintaining a full complement of our vistas. I would also just add that the Office of Neighborhood Engagement has been intimately involved in the activities and work related to the comprehensive plan, working with the Department of Community and Economic Development, as well as with the Department of Public Works, as we are going about talking to the community about various projects that may be taking place. The Office of Neighborhood Engagement is also home to many of our partnerships with a variety of nonprofit organizations as we work to address issues, everything from housing to issues all the way through the COVID pandemic. And last but not least, and I know that I'm missing a few things here, is the work that we've been doing related to language access. And this has been an addition, a much-needed addition to the complement of services that the city provides in meeting the needs of our community. As I think I've mentioned to you before, Spanish is the second most accessed language, but third is Swahili, and I'm listing them as English being first. And so when we think about the needs of our community, through the Office of Neighborhood Engagement, we've been able to address and continue to grow and support the work of language access, which is helping in all manner, especially in the areas of public safety, as well as just the daily business of running the city when somebody comes in and needs a building permit or other need. And I just remember one more thing I want to mention, which is the launch of the Neighborhood Leaders Academy and the work that we've been doing to build up our neighborhoods and their participation in local government. It is very important. We understand that local government cannot solve all issues and that we need to be working in partnership with our neighbors for a whole manner of things. And so all of this work has really been centered within the Office of Neighborhood Engagement, and this resolution tonight before you would simply elevate this from an office to a department in recognition of the scope and breadth of the work, and also in recognition, quite honestly, of the work of Ms. Carrasco as a dedicated member, not only of the staff, but of this community.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, a point of clarity, the item before us is a bill, not a resolution, just to avoid creating any confusion. Again, thank you, Mayor. Council comments then? From the public? I have Mr. Johnson and then, yep.
Thank you. Matt Johnson, 223 North Mulberry Street. For the last 10 to 12 years, I've canvassed every neighborhood in this city, and down to almost the door, people have said that we need to move as a city away from just investing in the downtown into the neighborhoods. The way that we invest in neighborhoods is definitely different than you do in downtown. It takes a different toolbox, and it takes a different type of person. So I'm here in support of creating this as a permanent department, and am surprised to find that there is any kind of contention on this matter. It seems like a no-brainer to me. All right, so I'm going to talk about the reasons. One is neighbor power. The unleashing of our greatest asset in the city is the neighbors, concerned neighbors, block captains, people that look out for the block. This is something that we've known in urban planning for 70 years, and we're finally formalizing those relationships into things like the Neighborhood Leaders Academy, of which there are several graduates here to speak out on behalf of the creation of this. And I'm going to keep it brief and let them tell their stories, but as a neighbor myself, I've seen Department of Neighborhood Engagement take our block from a group of loosely organized individuals into an actual 200 block. We have a Facebook page and everything. Number two, that is missing from all of the criticisms of the Department of Neighborhood Engagement is how much grant money and partnership money that the department has brought into the city. We started as a Department of Neighborhood Engagement with 2 vistas working on Howard Avenue, and now we're talking about 11 vistas that are working across the city in police recruitment, in public art, everywhere across the city. So it's insane to me if we're looking at this as just good governance. We have 11 new employees to tackle the toughest problems in our city. Finally, number 3, the internal work. I find it offensive to think that the people of the city do not know that Millsy was receiving a raise, or that this was happening, or this is somehow done in the dark of night. Because I think that the Department of Neighborhood Engagement has fundamentally changed the way the city delivers services. It doesn't treat each problem as some isolated individual issue. It takes neighborhoods and says, how can we have a holistic approach? It's changed the way we deliver services, and it has empowered residents to build the type of resilience and the type of autonomy that is really what makes local government work. In terms of any worries about salaries or anything, and this is my last little bit about Millsy, she is absolutely priceless. What we have in this city and what this woman has been able to do in 4 years, the fact that we are at this point, as the mayor pointed out, with the scope of this department and the partnerships, the crucial partnerships, getting through everything from the community conversations around policing to lead to the pandemic, all of that has a neighborhood engagement lens. She is an absolute that cares more, works harder, and deserves every cent that comes her way, I believe. And I think it's a real low blow to think that other workers don't know the value that she brings to this community. So I'll just stop with there, and there are some other folks that have been through the NLA that would like to speak on behalf of her as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. The young lady.
Good evening. I'm Jean Weglars. I live in the 500 block of East King Street. I was a city employee in the Department of Public Safety and the Office of the Mayor. I was on City Council. I recently chaired the City Planning Commission. I'm also proud to say that I've lived in and paid property taxes in the city for 48 years. That's why I say I'm happy you called me young. The ordinance before you is no small matter. You are being asked to amend Chapter 5 of the Code of the City of Lancaster, which has been in place for many decades. Sadly, your approval has once again been taken for granted. This proposed ordinance anticipates that you will happily approve major legislation without meaningful justification and will likely ask few, if any, questions. Why do I say this? I say this because for the past 3 weeks, the city's website has listed a Department of Neighborhood Engagement. During that time, the website has also shown Milsley Carrazzo as its director. These changes have not been authorized. It is therefore hard not to conclude that you have become little more than a rubber stamp for the administration and have allowed your authority and rightful place in city government to be undermined. If you adopt this ordinance, you will set a precedent that undermines the long-established pillars of departmental organization and salary structures within the city of Lancaster. Council should never knowingly take actions that would undermine the morale and performance of dedicated city employees. Do not start down this dangerous road. The 4 other departments in city government were determined by scope of responsibility, number of employees, and budgetary authority. With a mere 7 full-time and 4 part-time employees, the Office of Neighborhood Engagement should remain within the Office of the Mayor. It is worth remembering that a mere 8 weeks ago, Council adopted the city's 2022 budget ordinance. When you did that, you authorized the existing location of the Office of Neighborhood Engagement and approved new salaries for each of those 11 employees. This may not be easy, but it is absolutely the right thing to do. Table or defeat Ordinance Administrative Bill 3 of 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weglars. Other comments from the public? I see Mayor Morris and then Mr. Ahmed. Please go ahead.
Tonight, I wish to speak about an issue of equity, about fair and equal compensation of employees in relationship to their responsibilities and experience. I am concerned not with the work this office does, but with the proposed bill to establish the small Office of Neighborhood Engagement as a major city department when the existing 4 departments, Public Works, Public Safety, Administrative Services, and Community Planning and Economic Development are anywhere from 7 to 80 times larger in budget authority. Neighborhood engagement should remain as an office under the high-profile office of the mayor. Also, I am particularly concerned with the disproportionately high salary increases that the Director of Neighborhood Engagement has received and is receiving again this year in relationship to other departments and to income of city residents. You've heard hyperbole here about the grants and the number of things that done. Please listen to these numbers, if I may. In 2019, the mayor's budget provided a salary of $61,800 for the Office of Neighborhood Engagement, $61,000. It was raised to $70,000 in 2020, to $85,600 in 21, and to the current budget of $115,600 this year. Those are annual increases of 14%, 21%, 35%, far above what other city employees or city residents of a whole have received in those years. In total, it is an increase of nearly $54,000 or 87% over 3 years. For that salary, the director supervises a small staff, 7 full-time and 4 part-time workers, and interacts with Vista volunteers. They are not employees of the city. The office budget authority for that total group, $760,000. In comparison, the fire chief makes less money than that, $600 less, oversees 77 employees and a budget of $13.24 million, and earns a salary less than that. He has worked for the city 17 years. Over the past 3 years, the salary increases of his position has been 6% increase, not 87% increase. The Deputy Director of Finance, the city's Chief Accounting Officer, directly assists the Director of Administrative Services in monitoring and recording over $120 million in operating budgets. She has worked as an accountant for the past 18 years, Over the past 3 years, the salary of that position has been increased from $86,700 to $100,900, up 16%, not 87%. The city's Human Resources Director, responsible for the hiring, retention, dismissal, and personnel policies of all city employees, will be paid $80,000.
Mayor Morris.
You stopped me. I appreciate it. I noticed you let other people speak beyond that. So, you obviously don't want to hear the rest. Would you finish?
Okay, hold on a second. Before we proceed, Mayor, okay, this is my show, please understand. And no, let me finish. A couple of things. Not only were you allowed to go significantly over the time last time, but as the counter was not started, Ms. Wegler's was also, I don't know if it's Ms., Mrs., or Doctor, I apologize, was also allowed to proceed for longer than 3 minutes. I am happy to have Susie come up and proceed. Oh, sorry, that's correct. I'm sorry, say that again? That's correct. But, sorry, so returning to my original point, you are correct about Ms. Weglars, and my apologies to you. Mayor Morris, more than once at council and and at least once this evening, you spoke over the 3 minutes. It is not my intention to cut you off, but these are exceedingly long meetings, and you know as well as anyone what the time constraints are. So I really don't recognize that as a comment in good faith, and I almost overwhelmingly see you as someone who comes to speak in good faith. So the time thing that's just because it's my responsibility. And so, Susie, if you would now like to take the podium, now's your opportunity. Thank you.
If it is okay, I'm going to finish Art Morris's.
Your 3 minutes at the podium is to do with what you will.
Okay. The manager of the city's water waste department treatment plant oversees 19 employees and a budget of $6 million, 8 times greater than that for the proposed Department of Neighborhood Engagement. He has worked for the city for more than 42 years. In the past 3 years, his salary has risen from $65,340 to $80,340. That's about $35,000 less than what the engagement director with 3 years' experience will be earning in 2022. It is also worthwhile comparing the proposed salary increase for this position to the household income of Lancaster City residents. According to the Census Bureau, the average household income in the city in 2019 was $45,514. I seriously doubt that these residents saw similar increases in their income. So tonight, with this bill approval on the agenda, I ask you to consider what impact this extraordinarily large salary increase given to a relatively new city employee will have on the morale of other bureau heads whose responsibilities and experience exceed that of the engagement director. More importantly, I ask you to look at this salary increase as a matter of fairness and equity. It is essential for you to be objective and dismiss this move forward towards favoritism and irrational reasoning. Show all city employees that they can rely upon you to choose equity over favoritism. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoover. Thank you, Ms. Hoover. Mr. Ahmed.
Good evening. Ahmed, 500 block of North Lime. I'm a proud graduate of the Mayor's Neighborhood Leaders Academy, a community organizer here in Lancaster working with the refugee community, and a lot of my work is a direct product of the Department of Neighborhood Engagement. I come here tonight to urge you to support making this department officially a part of the city. You know, I've heard some of the criticisms tonight, and I'll tell you one thing, there's nothing small about the job that this department does. You know, everything from language access to the grants. You know, through the Neighborhood Leaders Academy, we were able to not only put direct resources in the hands of new Lancastrians, but also show them that they too can be engaged in their community and that they too could be leaders. We have worked to continue to make Lancaster more accessible in terms of language and in terms of participation and transparency. So I urge you guys this evening to, think about the public art, the murals you see, think about the neighborhood captains, the activism, as we go through Lancaster, it's been quite some time since I've seen such engagement, especially in some of our youth. Some of the programs that are going on and the mentorship that we're developing, for our next generation, is commendable. And I want to, make sure everybody is aware that who are we as leaders if we are not going to build the next generation of leaders? That is our responsibility, not only as elected officials, but as neighbors. As people of the city, we have to continue to see, the need for community engagement, especially in parts of the city that kind of felt like they were being left out. They felt they didn't have a seat at the table. And, they were still having, their block parties, and they were still having, their corner stores and their barbershops as pillars of their community. But now through organizations like the Neighborhood Leaders Academy and the Love Your Block grant, we were able to, take these people who were already leaders and, help them, create a business or help them paint that mural on their block. Or, I've been in Neighborhood Leaders Academy meetings where people were concerned about the trash on their street. And they were finding solutions within their communities. So when we criticize the work that's being done, I invite those critics to come see the activism that's going on, and I would really like them to come spend a day in Millsy's shoes. Somebody who has been a mentor to all of us, somebody who has really, really inspired a lot of people, including myself. Somebody who is almost disengaged from their community. So to say anything that this person does is small, is appalling. And we need to put these political, theatrics aside and really remember that we are here to build new leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi. My name's Kirsten. I'm from the 800 block of Highland Avenue, and I'm from the first class of the Neighborhood Leaders Academy, and I've been working with Millsy and her team since 2019, doing lots of wonderful things in the South Side neighborhood. Millsy has been integral in helping fix the traffic safety on Highland Avenue, helping make improvements to South End Park that we've been overlooked in the past, and facilitation with really difficult conversations with outside developers coming into our neighborhood. None of this would have happened without Millsy and without the Department of Neighborhood Engagement. Her position has drastically changed over these years, and therefore the salary needs to drastically change because the position is changing. So talking about what she makes compared to what other people make and how long they've been working with the city, it's not comparable. It's not a comparison. When your roles change and what you're doing increases, of course your salary is going to increase with that. Mr. Morris, a quote from an article that you wrote February 15th, 2015. You said, "I'm just a person, quite frankly, that if I'm concerned about something, I tend to get involved and to speak out. There's a lot of people that don't feel comfortable with that, and it's not something I've really shied away from. And I think it's important to have citizens interact with government and others on the issues that are important to them." That's what Millsy does for those of us that aren't in government, that don't know who to turn to and who to get answers from for questions in our community. This is what Millsy is doing for those of us in neighborhoods that are underserved. Furthermore, your pet peeve in the same article was the working poor get a lot of lip service but little respect. Millsy is actually helping to change that in her department. She's helping give a voice to those of us that don't feel we have a voice here in Lancaster City. Another article from August 4th, 2020 about poverty here in Lancaster City. I'm going to quote you. "If we as a community want to be successful in making real progress in addressing," you quoted poverty, but let's say equity in the city, "we need a greater commitment of resources. We need a champion who can put together significant resources to lead the charge, a person to give everyone in all neighborhoods a voice backed up with real action." That's Millsy Carrasco and her department.
Ms. Krimmel?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Can
Am I
you-
off?
No,
task?
you were not. You were
Okay.
not fine on time. And actually, if we
So,
could pause that.
Like, she is important. This department is important. It has changed our neighborhood.
Yep.
And we need to give more voice to more people in more neighborhoods. So what you find is important. Like, she's actually doing that for those of us that don't know how to make this happen in our neighborhood. She's making magic happen.
Ms. Krimmel, the issue was actually not your time.
Sorry.
If you could keep your comments directed to
Miss-
us and
okay.
not directed to
Okay.
Mayor Morris, if you
Okay.
could. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate that, but yeah.
I would have never been speaking at a meeting like this before getting involved in the city and Millsy and all of her things. So, like, she has helped a
Ms.
lot of
Krimmel.
us. Yeah, I'm
I-
sorry.
you're fine.
I just want him to realize this is not an attack. Like, what Millsy does is amazing.
Right. And yes, thank
and
you.
my time is up.
It is. And just if we can endeavor to this is the relationship instead of, thank you very much. Ms. Hoover, I saw you waving your hand earlier. Could you wait until Zyra is finished? And then you are absolutely,
That's not Zyra.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It is not. Oh my God.
It's Vasti.
It is Vasti. Oh my God. And we used to work together. That's so embarrassing. My apologies, Vasti.
It's okay. Good evening. My name is Vasti Dominguez. I've been living in Beaver Street, 540 Beaver Street for about 20 years, and I am a taxpayer also. I've been working with Millsy for quite some time now. Beaver Street was actually untouched, abandoned, I would say. Now Beaver Street starting to look really nice. New streets, murals, things are going on. The most important thing that I think that I've been working with the residents on Beaver Street is the communication. Before, I didn't have the tool that I have now, which is communication, translations. Yesterday, I was sitting in the living room of Afghanistan families that spoke Pashto. Would I have been able to do that? Absolutely not. Not if I didn't have the tools to do that. So I think it's very important, the work that Millsy is doing, and I think it's an important department to keep and focus and invest even more, I would say. The responsibility is great. I have seen Millsy leave her family events to come attend an emergency on Beaver Street. I've seen that myself personally. You know, she has gotten down there, she has been active, I'm very proud of the work she's doing, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dominguez. Ms. Hoover.
I just wanted to say, I don't believe in looking at the comparison of salaries is a criticism of Millsy on any level. It was factual information, keeping things equitable on some level. I actually worked with Jean Weglars with the East King Improvement District, and we started an assessment team, and we had all sectors of the city, such as housing, health, fire, police, and I kept all the stats for the group, and we evaluated them, and every block could bring 4 problem properties to the table, and it was evaluated by the group, and then we set a plan to improve things. As for my own block, when I moved into that block, I saw the potential, and we had 486 police response calls and 3 bad bars, and I did a report in 2017 that showed that my personal crime in the community, and it wasn't like parking, it was rape, drugs, just a whole drunkenness, whole lot of things, and it was reduced by over 85%, and so that's quite significant. And plus, I wanted to keep it that particular neighborhood. I wanted to keep it so we had all classes of people, because that's what I'm about. And so with that, I brought investors in, and they committed to keeping low, middle, and higher income because we didn't have a middle or higher income in that block. So I know what all of this is about, and I'm still doing it after 20 years. And so I can't say that Gene and I do not understand the capacity and the size of this thing. And I do think Milsey's, I can see the work that's being done, and because I've been through it, and I've done it for 14 neighborhoods on my own, and along with Gene. And so it's not a criticism. They're acting as if this is a criticism. I think Art was just pointing out, and he asked me to finish his talk for him. And reading it, I saw what he was just saying is evaluate that so things are equitable, because I can't say the police chief is doing less than Milsey is, or any other director. And I think that there has to, now that I'm really thinking about that, there needs to be a balance. So I just wanted to say it's not not saying anything bad about Milsey. It's just looking at the salaries and how they all adjust with each other. And that's kind of the point.
Thank you, Ms. Hoover. Are there any other public comments? Mr. Dastra, Mayor Morris.
Tony Dastra, 700 block of New Holland Avenue. So I've heard a lot about this, and I wanted to get up here tonight and say, like, you know, I think it was last year when I started saying that we needed to do this and we needed to increase the rates of pay for gender equity. And, you know, I find irony being today's International Women's Day. But, like, this is something that I had been saying that we needed to do, and I'm glad that this administration and this council is doing it. I don't know. I think the point of theatrics is somewhat important here, because I think we're really going in depth on something that, you know, we can discuss how rates of pay are problematic because the general population might not be making a certain amount of money. Valid. Median income in this area, I think, is around 60, middle 60s. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, guys. Like this is just a little comical for me to watch. Like, I've been cheesing a little bit over here because, like, yeah, this, when we look at it, when we take a step and look at it as just a simple rate increase, okay, but there have been conversations going on related to this. I would, maybe I'm putting a little bit too much onus on myself here, being like, I brought this up last year, but I'm partially saying this to say, like, the public, being this guy at least, has been saying this needs to occur. And I've disagreed with a lot of people in this room on a lot of different levels. But this is one thing that I do support. I think we need to legitimize. The rate of pay is something that I am glad to see. I think there's validity to be had in the conversation in the long run of why are we paying individuals X amount of dollars, in terms of, like, is there a gap between the general population and our high-level staff members of the city? That's a valid point to make, but I see this as a matter of gender equity. That is what this situation boils down. At least if we're going to bring into the pay. Like, if we're talking about the pay, which I don't think that this bill specifically is about, this is more about the legitimization of the position, which also needs to occur. The budget was set last year on this. I'm a young guy in this community just trying to keep my eyes open, but I do feel that point of theatrics, because, like, right now, I don't know, do we really want to be fighting about this, guys? We're, like, I know I made light of it, but fuel prices are rising. Our entire local community has bigger issues to focus on than this fight. Thank you.
Mayor?
I've had comments directed at me, what I've said in newspaper articles. Just to make it clear, if you go back and check when I ran for mayor, neighborhoods was one of my key elements. I told the mayor years ago, that I think having an emphasis on neighborhoods is important. So I'm not against work in neighborhoods. I think it's extremely important. I think it's unfair to characterize my comments in any other way. This is strictly about equity. You could bring people here that run the South Sewage Treatment Plant and have their employees and parents and friends and family and supporters. They're not seen by council. They work at the South Plant. Same people that repair broken water mains in frozen weather. You have people in city government doing all kinds of things. They don't come before you. These folks have an opportunity to come before you and explain to you why they feel it's important. You have an unseen 600 and some employees. And I will end with this. I think you're going to rue the day that you will do this in regard to raising salaries, because other city employees, and I've been contacted, and union people feel they've accepted 2.75%, and I think you'll live to rue the day, not the work being done, and there are female employees that make far less than this in very important positions. You were told of some. So it's not a matter of sex. There are female employees of races across the city that could be making more and are not. And so I simply speak for those folks that aren't seen before council here, before you make this decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. I'm going to cut it off after you, Millsy. Come on. At the very least, you deserve to speak. But then I think we're pretty much wrapped on this.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I have to say I'm really thankful, really humbled from the comments that we've heard this evening, and also really appreciate this process, this democratic process of having this opportunity and having everyone come here tonight and voice their concerns and their support in this work. So I do appreciate everyone's comments. I want to thank the mayor for the opportunity and vision to establish the Office of Neighborhood Engagement, and for truly championing the importance of engaging our residents as partners in developing a stronger, more equitable city block by block. And council, thank you for your continued support through the last 4+ years, and understanding how important it is to institutionalize this work. I had over 5 minutes, but I see the timer, so I'm going to cut some of this back. But I want to begin with the foundation of our department's work in elevating the democratic process through equitable engagement. Douglas. The promise of democracy is that everyone has a voice and they're heard. We are creating avenues to give everyone a chance to be heard regardless of where they live or what language they speak. And we do that as a team in the Department of Neighborhood Engagement. With a greater commitment to intentionally increasing equity in our community engagement efforts, the City of Lancaster is in a better position to address social and health inequities and promote access to resources, services, and programs that help people lead better, healthier lives in our city. The Department of Neighborhood Engagement really focuses on engaging residents in an equitable way and institutionalizing those engagement processes into all areas of city government. This is for sure a work in progress, and the transformation since we started this work has been really incredible. We've changed how we connect with residents, provided new avenues to collect feedback, including Engage Lancaster, our online engagement platform. And overall, we've made an intentional effort to reach out to people whose voices were not being heard and giving them the chance to be heard through grassroots outreach. I would like to highlight that we've been doing this work for more than 4 years, and starting in April 2018, I wanted to share with you again some of our department accomplishments. In 2018, surveying our community and finding out what needs communities had. 2019, developing community-based programs to fill these needs, increasing accessibility through language access, and becoming the first certified welcoming city in Pennsylvania and one of 12 in the nation. That's an incredible moment for our city. Our community favorites, Love Your Block, Neighborhood Leadership Academy, and biweekly meetings with our neighborhood group leaders continue on. 2020, we pivoted with the onset of COVID-19 pandemic and support community health and community needs. And we merged in 2021 with the Lancaster Office of Promotion and added focus on equitable economic recovery. So I just want to talk a little bit real quick. I know that my time's up. Just really talk about the future, some things that you can expect from us in the future that includes more community grants and raising funds to provide those grants, ensuring sustainability of this work for our community. I would like to note that the department has raised significant dollars and in-kind services to do this work. This support maximizes our community impact and minimizes the taxpayer contribution. Expanding language access, as the mayor shared, tracking and reporting engagement data, and creating a more inclusive, equitable special events through our Office of Promotion. Expanding tourism efforts, focusing on local, regional, and international, and continue to provide cross-departmental engagement support by developing a citywide engagement plan that will include best practices and guidelines on how to engage with our community in a more inclusive, equitable way. And the best part of all this work is building an incredible relationship with our residents. This impact is so vital in building democracy. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Milsey. Okay. Are there any council comments before I call for the vote?
Council President.
Councilor Baker?
I know we are going long, so I will not belabor the point, but I would just like to say, after hearing comment this evening and previous meetings and in general in the community about elevating this office to the Department of Neighborhood Engagement, I understand that it is made up of a small staff, but it is not small work that is being done. And relative to others, it is small, but this is about bringing together the collective power of all departments in the city to work for residents when they need it. Delivering services that are truly essential, supporting residents and elevating their concerns, like we heard tonight about people that didn't have access to that before, nowhere to turn, now they do. Now they have people on their block that can help them. And that's not a small thing. We talk a lot about elevating and investing in priorities, and I think it's important to note that we are not divesting resources from any other, also very essential department in the city by doing this. We are just elevating another extremely essential service to our residents. Thank you very much.
Are there any other? Councilor Diaz, please.
I just have one small question. In regards to the advertisement that was mentioned on the website, is that something that was cleared with the attorney? I just wanted to make sure that we're not falling into any type of lawsuit or making sure that this was clearly done with legal actions and so forth. So I'm just curious to know if anybody can answer that question.
Yeah, Councilor Diaz, I will let the mayor answer more definitively, though a thing that occurs to me is it's possible that there's an item of confusion here. I don't know what was posted on the website. I didn't see it. We have referred to neighborhood engagement as done, D-O-N-E, as a Department of Neighborhood Engagement going back several years in city publications. And so I'm not sure it was necessarily a reflection of the anticipation of tonight's vote, but just part of just an ongoing tradition of what we've called it. And I think if you look in previous council minutes and agendas, you'll see it referred to as D-O-N-E, and in budgets, but, subaltern, if you will. Well, that's a fun SAT word, to the mayor's office. But I'll let the mayor will be able to respond with more specifics, I presume.
I would just echo Council President's comments, and I would be happy to take a more exhaustive look. I don't think that there's any, there was no intention to usurp the authority of City Council, and I would say that we should be more precise in the language that we're using previously as the Office of Neighborhood Engagement. I know that on our Facebook, it's the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Engagement, but in other areas, it is referred to as done the Department of Neighborhood Engagement. And I will certainly own that we should have been more precise in the language that was being used historically.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz.
Council President, if I may.
Councilor Arroyo.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. When we look at the ordinance that's before us, I know there's a lot of talk around salary size and staff size, but elevating this to a department, I think, ensures that in the future, we're going to have a department that's dedicated specifically for the empowerment of our residents, and to me, that's invaluable. And when I think about the conversation around pay increases over the past years, that just tells me with the work that's been done that the staff has been severely underpaid over those years. Underpaid. When I think about the increase in staff, it's also been understaffed, but the work that they've been doing has been tremendous. And I personally don't measure a department's value based on its budget size or staff size, but more on its impact on our residents. So extremely thankful that we're presented as a council to do something that I think is historic and will ensure that for future generations, we have a department that's truly dedicated, along with the rest of our departments, to the residents of our city. That's all, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. I'll take a moment to address a couple of things. First, I am looking at the July 30th, 2021 employee newsletter as emailed to all City Hall employees, all external public works employees, and all City of Lancaster police employees by Ms. Strazo. There is herein an advertisement for the Neighborhood Leaders Academy, again in July of last year, where people who are interested are instructed to call the Department of Neighborhood Engagement, just to provide a record that there is a tradition of referring to it as DONE within City Hall. I also want to do a couple of things. I want to apologize for my error, and this, to be clear, this is not directed at you, Ms. Krimmel, but rather for not more clearly instructing folks in general. Just talk to us. We need to minimize the level of back and forth and any ad hominem, and that's on me to do. So I apologize for failing to be more strict about that. So, and I want to thank everybody for a really passionate and thorough level of engagement, and I think it's important that we try to see each other's comments in the best possible faith as they are presented. One more time, councilors, any council comment? Otherwise, I will call the vote. Mr. Harris, please.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Colexi.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waydell.
Aye. Congratulations. That brings us to Administration Bill number 4, 2022. Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, accepting the offer of dedication of a right-of-way in the form of a deed from UPMC Pinnacle Lancaster for a portion of Marietta Avenue, fronting grantor's real property, known as 210 College Avenue, offered for dedication in connection with a final subdivision plan, and placing the same on the official map and declaring it open to public use.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'm so sorry. Councilor Baker, will you please take the meeting for a few minutes?
No, absolutely. All right, just orienting myself here. So this is Administration Bill number 4, 2022. This is a second reading. We've heard from, I think, Mr. Smith on this before. Is there anything additional that you'd like to add? Thank you. Council comments?
None other than what was previously made.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Hearing none. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Colexi.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll go then to ordinances for first reading. This is subheading D on your agenda. We'll begin with Administration Bill Number 5, 2022. Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, establishing appropriations of $10 million for capital projects in 2022, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect as provided by Pennsylvania law.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. This is a first reading. Mr. Hopkins, we discussed this at the last meeting, and I know that you've provided us with an updated Exhibit A. Is there anything additional that you'd like to add for this evening's meeting?
Just to actually correct one, I think, minor misstatement you made when you were describing the TRAN earlier.
Yes, in my
It's actually
interim
this-
report of committee.
This
yes.
ordinance that is providing the authority from City Council to the administration for expenditure of dollars for the capital project. So that Exhibit A is that capital project list. Anytime that there's an appropriation or a supplemental appropriation, it has to go through the ordinance process. The Exhibit A then is the individual, the groupings of projects within the general fund, stormwater management fund, and the water fund for that total of $10 million of capital projects. This ordinance then is related to the reimbursement ordinance the reimbursement resolution that's later on the agenda. I don't remember the note. It's long down on the agenda. We have a long one tonight. And then, again, it is related to the TRAN resolution, but I'll address those issues when that comes up on the agenda.
Thank you, and thank you for making that correction to what I stated earlier. Are there any council comments on Administration Bill Number 5? And from the public? Again, this is a first reading, so this will come up on our next meeting agenda for a vote. All right, we'll then move to heading E on our agenda this evening, which is resolutions, beginning with Resolution Number 16, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the City Council of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the appointment of a director of the Department of Neighborhood Engagement.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any council comments? From the public? Hearing none. Mr. Harris?
Mr. Royo?
Aye.
Ms. Bakay?
Aye.
Mr. Colexi?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item is Resolution Number 19, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, designating Fulton Financial Advisors as trustee, custodian, manager of the non-uniform employees pension plan, and naming the individuals authorized on behalf of the city to issue instructions to the trustee, custodian, manager of the non-uniformed employees pension plan.
At this time, I'll transfer the meeting back to President Smith-Waddell.
Thank you, Councilor Bakay.
We just had a reading of the title of Resolution Number 19.
Excellent. I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Bakay.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned in my report previously this evening, this resolution is necessary because of the retirement of City Controller Bill Andrews and the election of the new City Controller James Reichenbach. This amends the signatories on those plans. It's really about banking paperwork. It needs to be updated whenever there's a change in that position. That's all I have.
Fantastic. Council comments. From the public. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Royo?
Aye.
Ms. Bakay?
Aye.
Mr. Colexi?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
President Smith-Waddell?
Aye. All right, that brings us to Administration Resolution Number 20, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, designating Fulton Financial Advisors as trustee, custodian, manager of the police pension plan, and naming the individuals authorized on behalf of the city to issue instructions to the trustee, custodian, manager of the police pension plan.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Council comments? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo?
Aye.
Ms. Bakay?
Aye.
Mr. Colexi?
Aye.
Ms. Gregg?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. That brings us to Administration Resolution Number 21, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, designated Fulton Financial Advisors as trustee, custodian, manager of the fire pension plan, and naming the individuals authorized on behalf of the city to issue instructions to the trustee, custodian, manager of the fire pension plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council comments? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo?
Aye.
Ms. Bakay?
Aye.
Mr. Colexi?
Aye.
Ms. Gregg?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Okay, that brings us to Administration Resolution Number 22, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the appointment of the Controller of the City of Lancaster, James Reichenbach, of a Deputy Controller.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council comments?
Only to say, Council President, that as I mentioned in my report earlier this evening, that this is the appointment of a deputy controller is something that we are able to do due to a third-class city code change several years ago, and is in line with our operations, and would allow a staff member to act if the elected controller would not be able to.
Thank you, Councilor Bakay. Any other council comments? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo?
Aye.
Ms. Bakay?
Aye.
Mr. Colexi?
Aye.
Ms. Gregg?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Okay, Administration Resolution Number 23, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the appointment of the appointment by the Treasurer of the City of Lancaster, Vincent Derrick Smith, of a Deputy City Treasurer.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Bakay.
Thank you very much. Similarly to the deputy controller, this position is available to us and really is in line with the city operations. The elected treasurer is not the one who's physically collecting the taxes in the Treasury office, so this allows us to solidify the operations of the city as they are today, and make the deputy treasurer, which is in this case Megan Baum, who is the bureau chief for procurement and collections of the city of Lancaster.
Thank you. Other council comments? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo?
Aye.
Ms. Bakay?
Aye.
Mr. Colexi?
Aye.
Ms. Gregg?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. That brings us, I believe, to Administration Resolution Number 24, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, approving and authorizing an agreement between the city, treasurer, and deputy tax collector, directing the officials of the city to take all necessary action to comply with the terms of the agreement regarding the collection of the city's real estate taxes as amended from time to time.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Bakay?
This is related to the previous resolution and allows the deputy treasurer to be the tax collector for the city.
Other council comments? Other comments from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris?
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Bakay.
Aye.
Mr. Clexi.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Welsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. That brings us to Administration Resolution number 25, 2022. Mr. Harris?
A resolution authorizing a borrowing in the amount not to exceed $10 million in anticipation of current taxes and revenues and the issuance of a tax and revenue anticipation note, establishing the form of such note, approving and accepting a proposal of Fulton Bank National Association to purchase the note and authorizing the negotiated sale thereof to said bank, authorizing and directing certain officials to deliver a certificate as to taxes and revenues to be collected, to cause to be made the filings required by law to execute and deliver the note, and to take such other actions as may be necessary or desirable.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Bakay?
Thank you very much. We discussed this at our committee meeting, and the only change since then has been the addition of Fulton Bank. I don't know if there's anything, Mr. McCarty, that you would like to add in regards to that? Or any of you? Thank you.
So,
Paperwork.
Thank you.
Mr. McCarty and Mr. Peck, this is, their roles in this process is significantly more than just handing you the paper that they're handing you now, but
Yes.
what they're providing to you, and Darrell can speak to this as well, is the report that Concord Public Finance put together that lays out the results of the RFP that was issued by Concord in late February, I believe it was, or possibly early, yes, late February. As we said, the proposals were due by March 3rd, and what you see on the first page, after the title page of this report, provides you the list of, there were a total of 10 proposals from 7 financial institutions. They are split up by each individual financial institution. Some of those made more than one proposal because they came in as either fixed rate proposals or variable rate proposals. The two that we really focused on when we were reviewing these proposals were the one that's listed as 1A there, which is highlighted, the Fulton Bank proposal, which is the one that the information on the TRAN resolution has been completed with. And that was for a fixed rate of 1.75%. If you go down the list, the next actual fixed rate proposal that came in was number 5, and that was People's Bank at a rate of 2.24%. So almost a full half percentage point, or in the financial world, 50 basis points difference between those two rates. So that's a significant difference when you're looking at the fixed rate. So really what we were doing in terms of the fixed rates is proposing, or is reviewing those against the variable rate proposals. The best of the variable rate proposals at the time of the submission of the proposal had a 0.56% interest rate, which right off the bat looks like a quite attractive proposal. At the same time, we're also hearing news from the Fed, an outright announcement that at the March meeting, there is a proposal for at least a 0.25% increase in the Fed rate, which would result in an increase in this variable rate. We have also heard, either directly from Fed chair or from others around that table or from media or financial reports, in anticipation of future Fed interest rate hikes, which would also affect this rate. So one of our, from when we have had discussions about bond issues in the past, if anybody, and I don't remember if anybody on council now was at the table when we had swaps out there that were variable interest rates. Our preference has always been for fixed interest rates, sort of set it and forget it mentality, that when we establish a borrowing rate, we know what that is going to be. This is short-term borrowing, but we still think it's important, especially what is going on in the interest rate market, or in the interest rate world that the Fed has talked about, that establishing a fixed rate really has the advantage here. The other piece is that, and this is, the bank charge for the loan, the bank fee that you see listed there, $1,500 for Fulton Bank, $2,500 for PNC Bank with that variable interest rate. The other piece, there was with the PNC Bank, there was an unused portion fee. So now it's 0.1%, so not a huge number, but any TRAN proceeds that we wouldn't draw down would be charged that rate. That was a factor in the consideration. And then the last one was that part of Mr. McCarty's role here is drawing up the loan documentation and drawing that up, basically favorable to the city. PNC's proposal included a requirement that PNC's documents would have to be used. And some of this, frankly, was a matter of timing. We got proposals on March 3rd. We were going to be coming to you on March 8th. And there was a weekend in between there, and having to look at PNC bank documents, have them reviewed, potentially negotiate wording in there. That was going to be a difficult prospect. So, but really the thing that we primarily focused on was the fixed interest rate that's been proposed, 1.75%. Frankly, that's actually probably the strongest proposal that we've gotten from Fulton Bank on any number of TRAN requests for proposals that we've had out there. Darrell, did I miss anything in that rundown? No, sir. Okay, all right. So with that, on the second page, what you see there, this is really just a look at the potential debt service, the potential interest and then the resulting debt service based on that 1.75% interest rate, and depending on how long we have proceeds outstanding. Our expectation is that we will likely pay all that we draw down from the TRAN by sometime in July or August. The way this, though, is laid out here is it anticipates really a final principal return on 12/30, which is the maturity date of the TRAN. So this is sort of what anybody would characterize as like a worst case scenario. If you look at interest, if we have the 10 million outstanding as of July 1st, it would be interest of about just a little bit over $45,000. So that is much closer to what we ultimately anticipate is going to be the total amount of interest due. And then you see below that the estimated cost of issuance for bond counsel for Mr. McCarty's firm, for financial advisor, which is Concord Public Finance. The bank fee of $1,500, financial advisor, was $5,000, and an expense reserve of $500 for a total of $10,000 of issuance costs.
Sorry.
Council comments or council questions for Mr. Hopkins?
Council President,
Please.
This is an anticipation, correct? So this hasn't been authorized. So at the date of authorization, that's when the interest rate is locked in, correct?
You want to respond to that?
No, the proposals we received on Thursday, those fixed rates are up. The one, unless somebody said it's indicative rate, but most importantly, the Fulton rate is fixed already. If you enact or adopt the resolution tonight, you'll accept that proposal, and we will close, and that rate will be fixed.
Thank you.
And this also operates like a line of credit, meaning you draw down the money as you need it, and you're able to prepay at any time without any penalty. So it's all the flexibility to the city, and to minimize your interest expense.
Thank you.
Questions or comments from the public? Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Bekay?
Aye.
Mr. Colexi?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. That brings us to Council Resolution Number 26, 2022.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster declaring intention under Treasury Regulation 1.150-2 with respect to general fund, stormwater management, and water fund capital projects of the city.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Bekay.
Thank you very much. This is related to the note that was just authorized by the previous resolution. It states an intent to reimburse the funds that are taken out of the funds that Mr. Harris stated, the stormwater, and the water funds. I think I said sewer earlier too, so I do want to correct myself there. That we may start work on those projects and then later reimburse ourselves from an anticipated bond issue that will happen later in the summer.
Thank you, Councilor Bekay. Are there any other council comments or questions? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Bekay?
Aye.
Mr. Colexi?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. That brings us to Administration Resolution Number 27, 2022. Mr. Harris.
Approving a plan of financing of the Lancaster Higher Education Authority and declaring that it is desirable for the health, safety, and welfare of the people of the area to be served by such facilities, to have such facilities provided by or financed through the Lancaster Higher Education Authority, and authorizing their necessary and appropriate action.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Bekay.
Thank you very much. So we heard from this project from the Lancaster Higher Education Authority is actually a project for Elizabethtown College. They are seeking funding to refinance some debt and also possibly or also do some other capital projects. This doesn't obligate the city in any way. The Higher Education Authority was established to allow these institutions to get the most favorable rate by us adopting a resolution such as this.
Other comments or questions from council? Other comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Bekay?
Aye.
Mr. Colexi?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. Genuine question for first for Mr. Harris. Is it possible to take the local share account applications together? And then the follow-up question for Councilor Craig is, I'm just noticing we're at almost 9 o'clock. Is that something you're comfortable with? If either of you say no, then I'll ditch the proposal altogether. I'm just asking.
I think we should do them individually.
Yes, and I echo that. I apologize but these are individual applications and they need to be individually voted on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right then. Administration Resolution Number 28, 2022.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the filing of the Commonwealth Financing Authority local share account application for funding in the amount not to exceed $1 million for the tenfold TLC capital campaign.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. I know these have to be taken individually, but it's going to be the same spiel for all five. So Pennsylvania has a new source of funding called Local Shares Account. This comes from gaming money. There will be approximately $140 million $40 million available statewide. This is the first time it is being opened to Lancaster County. This is a new program and requires the grant applications come from local government, not from the nonprofits. The applicants will be required to prepare the elements of the application. City staff will submit them. That's all I have.
Council comments.
Council President,
Councilor Walsh.
with these funds, when you're saying this is the first time that they're available in Lancaster County, did our demographics change, or did the program or requirements, did they change for our eligibility to be approved?
I think we'll get Jess to address that.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. To my knowledge, this is just it's like a rolling application across the state, and they open it to different counties at different times, so this is the first time that Lancaster is eligible.
Great. Thank you, Jess.
Sure.
Thank you.
And Councilor Diaz asked a question last time about the possibility of would DCED award a partial grant? I've asked the question and have not yet received a response, but I can let you know when I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. While she's at the podium, any other questions or comments for the administration on this matter? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay. Thank you. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Bakay.
Aye.
Mr. Colexi.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. That brings us to Administration Resolution Number 29, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the filing of the Commonwealth Financing Authority local share account application for funding in the amount of $975,000 for renovation of the Saca Development Corporation's Centro Hispano.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Would you like to hear my little spiel again?
It's entirely up to you, Councilor. The floor is yours.
I'm sorry?
It's entirely up to you, Councilor. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I don't think I'll repeat it because the same thing applies to this, this funding grant that applied to the one that we just previously did for tenfold.
Council comments or questions? Questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Bakay.
Aye.
Mr. Colexi.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. That brings us to Administration Resolution Number 30, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the filing of the Commonwealth Financing Authority local share account application for funding in the amount not to exceed $1 million for the YWCA's Y Forward Capital Campaign.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Well, I'm going to read this to you again. Pennsylvania has a new source of funding called Local Shares Account. This is gaming money. There will be approximately $140 million available statewide. This is the first time it's been opened to Lancaster County. This is a new program and is required and requires that the grant applicants applications come from local government, not from the nonprofits. There you go.
Thank you, Councilor Craig.
You're welcome.
Council comments or questions? From the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Colexi.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. Administration Resolution Number 31, 2022. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the filing of the Commonwealth Financing Authority local share account application for funding in the amount not to exceed $850,000 for the renovation of the South End Concerned Neighbors Community Hub.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. I have nothing more to add to that. It's the same thing we just got done talking about as far as the YWCA.
Excellent. I know that there is a representative of South End Concerned Neighbors here this evening.
Yay.
If you'd like to speak, you may.
Ted Grace, 200 block South End. South End, on behalf of South End, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Great. That's all. That's in fact more than we need. Any other council questions or comments? Any other questions or comments from the public? Okay, let's make it happen. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Colexi.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Okay, I think that's the LSAs for the community organizations. Right. And so I'll just take a moment to say best of luck to all the applicants. This is money that belongs in our communities, so I hope you get it. And then one more, Administration Resolution Number 32, 2022.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the filing of a Commonwealth Financing Authority local share account application for funding in the amount not to exceed $800,000 for the City of Lancaster's infrastructure improvements at Binns Park.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig?
Thank you, Council President. I truly have nothing to add to what was already previously said.
Okay. Fantastic. Mayor, would you like to, is there any color commentary you'd like to add?
No, Binns Park hasn't seen any kind of significant upgrades in 16 years. There's a lot of electrical work, masonry repointing, metal work, some replanting that's going to be done as part of a refresh.
Great, thank you. Other council comments? From the public? Okay, Mr. Harris, please.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Beke.
Aye.
Mr. Colexi.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. That concludes our legislative agenda, and it brings us to public comment. This is our second public comment period. Open for comment on issues not previously addressed on the agenda. You know the drill, 3 minutes, start with your name and address. Mr. Russell, please go ahead.
Well, first of all, Barry Russell, 200 block Elm Street. This is my first live city council meeting in about 2 years. Thank you for honoring me with fire, so to speak. So anyway, Barry Russell, 200 block Elm Street. While the words this evening are my own, I represent a group of neighbors on Elm, Chestnut, and Walnut Streets who have come together to work with others to find the best solution for the College Avenue project. We're here tonight, one, to be put on the record, and two, to let our story be told and not let others tell it for us. I am not going to relist the concerns we have brought forward to date concerning technical aspects of the project on College Avenue, and I'm specifically talking about 217 College Avenue. Those have been stated in several commissions and correspondence, and we would be glad to forward that information to any of you that would like it. Instead, I'd like to talk about citizen engagement, a component of this administration's ongoing and public efforts. Mayor Sirachi spoke about neighborhood engagement, specifically about how it pertains to affordable housing just last Thursday evening. Let me tell you what, our experience seeking adequate engagement has been lacking during this process. Sure, while we have been able to attend the Planning, Historic, and Traffic Commissions and did share some concerns, none of the venues were user-friendly and seemed biased towards the developer. Never once were we as a body able to present our concerns in a meaningful and concise way. We did try to prepare as much as possible, but the developer can or cannot respond to specific concerns, their choice, and it was clear early on that the developers did not care to meaningfully interact with the neighbors. So who assures the citizens' voices are heard? And how do we obtain reasonable responses? It is certainly understood the needs for guidelines regarding time limits and number of speakers during public dialogue. The agendas are often long, and the boards, commissions, etc. utilize citizen members, usually as volunteers. The Pennsylvania Right to Know law, in fact, delineates guidelines in a clear and concise way for both meetings and agendas. It is interesting to note, however, that the Right to Know guidelines defer to citizens' rights when topics discussed are sensitive to the community, affect a large number of people in the community, or the effects to the community are far-reaching. Communication is key. Better more, as tedious and gobsmacking as that might be, than less. Sometimes dedicated gatherings to a specific topic are required. People deserve to have their voices heard. We again make a request that a dedicated meeting, including pertinent stakeholders, come together to discuss the College Avenue project. I know I'm over time. I just have another moment or so, if you don't mind. The other item I'd like to approach tonight is a little more subjective. One of the main items folks are concerned regarding the College Avenue project is its scope and massiveness. We brought this concern forward at the initial Planning Commission meeting, and this was actually responded to at the following Historical Commission meeting. However, we were puzzled by the response. The developer's response was to provide us with a history lesson of the College Avenue site, which culminated in the developer justifying a 5-story warehouse-like structure because 70 years ago, a similar structure sat on the site, a warehouse. To add to that rather strange justification, the developer offered properties such as the press building, steeple house lofts, and the umbrella works as comparables. All repurposed old warehouses, nothing similar to the project at hand. Dr. Works, the other evening at the Housing Forum, spoke of successes in affordable housing are seen when new ideas of ownership, design, and upkeep are developed. We can't keep doing the same old thing and expect new results. It seems the College Avenue project is drawing from generations gone by, not finding new initiatives and solutions. That concerns me and concerns the neighbors and others who have spoken up about this project. This project is the first affordable housing project in many years, and we need to get it right. We have a generational opportunity to think outside the box and really live into our motto, a city authentic. We'd like to be part of the process that makes this a premier fair housing project and an example as we move forward. How do we proceed? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Are there other public comments? Good evening, Ms. Grievous.
Good evening. My name is Irene Grievous, and I've been a landlord for over 30 years in Lancaster County. Unfortunately, I've been a target of racial injustice, which is why I'm here this evening. It's alarming because here it is, International Women's Day, and I just feel that I'm being pushed out. And Lancaster will get their wish. I will be leaving Lancaster because I am being forced out. I just found out that all my licenses on my 8 rental properties have been all revoked. There's no explanation. There's no reasoning till this day. I'm a little confused why my licenses were revoked. I had sent in my payment. First of all, I never even received a bill for any of my rental licenses for unknown reasons. I had sent in a check. I checked with my bank to see if it had been cleared. It had not. I went into the Treasury office just last week, only to find out that I'm not even in the system. As I was told, there's no record of me even having any rental properties. I went in to pay my water bills, that was fine, but as far as my licenses, no one seems to know, nor am I getting any answers as to why any of my licenses have been revoked. I have elderly tenants, and my other property, my 7 properties, of course, the 8th one was condemned unjustly, which is my other concern. I've applied for 4 permits. All 4 have been denied. I've been giving, instead of 10 to 14 day period that it normally takes to either get a permit approved, for me, each permit has taken over a month. The last one had taken 2 months. Here I'm working on the 5th one, which makes it nearly impossible for me to even obtain a permit. I don't know what more I could do. I know why they're doing it. It just seems that it's not fair or just that I'm going through what I'm going through. My other tenants are in fear that they're going to be displaced, just like this one was. And it's dragged out for 6 months, and I'm no further ahead now than I was then when I've been applying for permit, one permit after another permit. I've supplied everything that was asked of me, and yet it's still being denied. So I do have other properties that has taken them between 10 and 14 days to get up to a permit, yet for me has taken months. There's just no excuse for how I am being treated. It's appalling, to be honest with you. And I do have copies for the council to see of other permits. It's taken them 2 weeks. That is a policy and procedures. I don't know why the policies and procedures are different for me than it is for anybody else applying for a permit. It should not be this hard. The city should be working with me rather than against me. And it's not only affecting me, it's affecting all my tenants that are in fear they're going to be displaced, just like the property that they condemned.
Thank you, Ms. Grievous. Can you leave make sure the documentation gets to my clerk before the meeting ends? Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Good evening, Tony. Sorry, Mr. Dastra.
Tony's good. So, I was thinking about it. I didn't make a Facebook post, and I figured I wanted to say thank you to two people in my life in the way very familiar to me. Just here, because it is International Women's Day. And actually, I know I'm talking to you guys. There's two gentlemen who know them very well. Mr. Art Morris knew my great-grandmother very well. And Mr. Hopkins went to school with my mom. The two of them are, one of them was, awesome. I'm making many pauses, so the timer will definitely help me. I apologize. But yeah, someone asked me the other day about my weird old coat. And it was a Christmas gift from my mom, like over a decade ago. That never fit me and still doesn't. Jesus. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how tough things were at that time. Oh my goodness. But this is why it is so important, because I think about the things that my mom as a single mom had to go through, the things that my great-grandmother did as a freaking just a stalwart of the community. They leave me with a loss for words, because everything I do today is thanks to the opportunities they were able to provide for me. Those two women. Yeah. So I just wanted to take that moment to observe in this forum how important they have been in my life. And clearly I cannot keep composure at times. But if there's someone in your life that you love, you know, give them thanks. Because I know that my great-grandmother would also be hysteric to see the things I do. Thank you for the time. Sorry to take up an extra 3 minutes with my teary eyes. And I hope we all have a good night's rest.
Thank you, Mr. Dastra. Are there any other public comments? Reverend Shell.
Again, and thank you, Council. I just have a request. Maybe someone could tell me here, who do I need to speak to in order to get some parking for the businesses in the southeast area, especially with the permit parking? I've contacted the parking authority. They refer me to the police station. Rhonda refers me back to the parking authority, who is actually in charge, where we can sit down and have a discussion with the parking, especially in the southeast area concerning the businesses. With this permit parking, it's really driving all the after 6 p.m. out of the city. So who can speak to that issue? Also, I just want to say that when I listen, I know I'm sounding repetitious here, but I don't think there's no one, and I do acknowledge the community service. I acknowledge when people are working hard in the city, but when it comes down to equity and salary, I think the chief of the fire department deserves a higher salary than he's receiving, especially when you're hiring someone and paying them a much greater salary than the chief. So I think that, when it comes down to gentrification and salary and equity, yes, I'm all for that. But I also know that the fire department and when it come, what they do and the service they run into this city.
Thank you,
If
Reverend.
someone can let me know how to get some parking spaces. If we have to pay for them, that is not a problem. But we definitely need something done in the southeast area when it comes down to the businesses in the southeast. Thank you.
Thank you. Director, since the two of you were sitting in a cluster, is that one of you two? Like, it sounds like that should either go to the parking authority or to the police department, but if one is going back and forth, where would one go? Sorry to put you on the spot. Thank you.
So part of it depends on the nature of the application. For RPP, which is residential permit parking, it would be coming to the Traffic Commission, but we don't offer that kind of parking for businesses. So I believe it is actually through the Parking Authority for businesses. It can be appealed, or you can bring it to the Traffic Commission, and we will discuss it in that forum, and try to get a resolution, because we have the police, the Parking Authority, and ourselves at the Traffic Commission.
Well, I went to both, and they keep sending me back and forth.
So I mean the Traffic Commission, not the police department and not the Parking Authority, come to the Traffic Commission.
No one never said.
Right.
I'm saying that right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Campbell. Reverend Shell, don't leave before I get the chance to talk to you. Any other public comments? Okay. That.
President Legault, I just have
Oh, yeah,
a quick
please.
question. And I don't know if maybe Patrick can answer this, maybe. Do we know when the actual parking rates are going to start? Is this going to be next month? There was no actual date.
So ordinances are effective within, no sooner than 20 days after the effective date, so they can go into effect 20 days after today, since the ordinance was approved. I don't know, and I don't.
I believe Mr. Cohen left, yeah.
But we can get a follow-up request from him. I don't know what the process is for them to go through the meter changes, both on the electronic, the kiosks, but also the older meters. We can get that answer from Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. That's an important question. I'm also interested to know, for what it's worth. Mayor.
Good evening. I'd like to just thank council for the resolution tonight in solidarity with the people of Ukraine and the moment that we had to raise the flag out front. It was very poignant to have members of the Ukrainian community here in Lancaster sing their national anthem. And I also want to, as on International Women's Day, just say that how proud I am to be serving as the second woman mayor, and with this council and with the women that serve the city of Lancaster. It is truly an honor, and I really appreciate, and I'm reminded every day of the privilege and the gratitude I have for the many women who've walked ahead of us to pave a path. Tonight, I'd like to share just a bit about our recruiting, onboard training, and compensation efforts across the city. Our new employee onboarding program, the Red Rose Academy, launched last month, and that academy aims to elevate and standardize how we welcome our new employees across all departments. This is an all-day program where new staff are meeting with the executive leadership team, taking tours, understanding what the scope and functions are across city government, as well as reviewing various processes and procedures. And this kind of standard and impactful program has long been a goal of my administration, and I'm celebrating that it's up and running. And we have Sharon Allen Span and the Human Resources team to thank for this effort. The Academy gives us an extraordinary opportunity to intentionally create a culture of public service and inclusion among our workforce, and we're seizing on this opportunity with programs like the Academy, as well as leadership development efforts, and thinking holistically about how we recognize the great work of our employees, including our first comprehensive compensation analysis for non-bargaining employees. This objective analysis was completed to support the attraction and retention of quality employees and to ensure employees are paid fairly in relation to those who perform similar jobs in competitor organizations and to internal peers who are in the same or similar roles. And as you know, one of our explicit objectives is to build a workforce that better reflects the community that we serve, and we are continuing in those efforts. I want to call out two specific things related to public safety. In January, the Police Bureau launched a recruitment effort to find dedicated individuals looking to make Lancaster a safer place for everyone outside of the county consortium for the very first time. And we put together the Police Bureau put together a 20-member recruitment team to do direct outreach, as well as communications push with a new recruitment website, social media ads, direct mailings, and more. And these efforts have resulted in 155 applications for the city's own qualifying test this month, which is just a huge accomplishment, and I just want to call out those efforts. I also just want to note that we have 15 new firefighters that are in the academy. 10 that had not yet received their EMT certification. I'm pleased to report that they have all successfully completed their certification, and our team is preparing to onboard them in the coming months. I'll also refer council to an email from former Fire Chief Scott Little. I believe that was following the December hearings regarding the demographics related to the new firefighters, and that response was shared with council back in December. The East King Street Fire Station is also on track, and we will look forward to opening that in June. And, you know, all of this in a really difficult time in terms of hiring and retaining talented public service servants, and that remains a top priority for the city in this current job market, as we work to build the best team possible to serve our residents. So I'm really grateful for the work of our public servants and pleased to share a little bit about the work that our HR team and our hiring managers across this organization are doing. Over the last 2 years, we've hired 20% of our complement. And that just gives you a sense of the number of people that we are working to bring on board and orient to the great place that the city of Lancaster is to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Shirachi. I'll open it up to council comments first. Fantastic. I have no report, so hearing none, pardon me, gotta fish this thing out. I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.